to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the February 25th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the February 25th meeting.
Have a motion to approve, I have a second by Ms. Brown. Any additions or deletions or further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes are approved. February safety report.
Good morning, all.
Morning.
The numbers as of today were 121 days since last recordable and 505 since the last lost time period. And just as you know, our previous record was 742 days, 2 years and 12 days. And we're on a good track to break that record. And again, we got a goose egg, we've not had any injuries for the year. Our incident rate is 0. February training. The monthly safety meeting was over near miss reporting. And just reinforcing that employees need to voluntarily report all the near misses. A near miss is defined as an accident that happened that did not cause injury or property damage. And can't stress enough that if we don't report it, and we don't fix the problem, and then we don't discuss what happened and why, it's just real easy to forget about it, and it leaves a trap set for the next person. Our apprentice linemen, they began their testing through NPUA in February. We did have 38 employees receive their first COVID shots, and as of the end of today, those 38 will be fully vaccinated. And then I know just a couple of weeks ago when we met, we spoke about how well our employees did during the winter event. I just want to reiterate that them being out every day, keeping the water flowing and the lights on, and doing that, working safely, and we had no injuries during the event. I just want to commend them on that and thank them. And with that, that's all I've got. Anybody got any questions?
I'd just like to reiterate that about thanking them and the fact that we had no injuries. You know, just 2 or 3 times I like to get an injury just going out to get them in my car. So, anybody else got anything to say? Well, thank you, sir. Personnel update?
Again, we still have 12 openings in the utilities. We're actively looking for some of those positions. So it's only been 2 weeks since our last meeting. I think it feels like that. So, but we have not hired anybody, and we have not had any resignations since the last meeting. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Todd. Financial update?
All right. We received the December 2020 stuff earlier this week, so I just put together, instead of having to break down per category in each area, I just quickly put together our expenses, our operational revenue and expenses, and our capital revenue and expenses, just to show where we were for the year. Again, this is non-audited numbers and non-adjusted numbers, so these can change, but just to show you our revenue, you can see for operationally O&M, $26,424,832, and then our expenses were $26,351,000 for the year. So it appears we made a little bit of money operationally, okay? Capital, as you can see, and remember, this capital money is a transfer from O&M into the capital budget for the year. You can see we had a revenue of basically $8 billion, And then you can see our expenses, 4.8. And as I've discussed, and as we all know, where the big bucket of that is, that's sewer repairs that we've been doing throughout the city and continuing to try to do. This will get, some of this will get offset with the bond money. I don't know how that works. If y'all want to ask Susan, I'm not an accountant, but once we do get the bond issued, we're actually working on trying to get the final documentation, because we had to have 2020 numbers in order to do the bond issue. So we just did that, and actually Tori's upstairs. She actually has me, she's working on a questionnaire right now to get to the bond council, so where we can try to issue this bond for our sewer improvements that we have to do. But you can see it was $3 million. So when you look at cash flow, didn't do so well in 2020. But we all knew that. I think we knew our revenue was down, and then the expenses we were trying to, as we were moving forward, were up. And again, we knew that with the bond issue would offset some of the capital expenditures. Any questions on this part? All right.
Make sure your bond issue allows you to capture some of those.
Right. And we took care of that. And if y'all remember, one of the things, if you remember, and I'm trying to remember, Wayne, James was on the council at that time, and so was Mr. Mundy. I pushed forward that resolution to try to make sure to get it forward that we're going to do the bond issue, because we were allowed to capture anything that was 60 days prior to that resolution. So that was the key of getting that. That allowed me to, on these other projects we've been working on, you know, Station 9 rehab, the manhole rehabs that were actually already in process, and be legal to go and move that money over. Our bond counsel, Mr. Bowman, with Ryan, with Kutek, is that right?
Kutek Rock.
Kutek Rock advised us on that, so, yeah. All right.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Before we move to the next one, I have another slide that I want to talk about. It's not a financial update. No, that's not it. Oh, there it is. All right. Last month, y'all gave me approval to spread our fuel adjustment over the next 3 months instead of trying to recapture it all in one, because of the escalated cost that we were going to see because of the cost of fuel during the winter time, or the winter storm we had. What I'm showing you are some numbers, and I'm going to stand up so I don't have my neck doesn't bend so much. The years of 2018, 19, and 20, in the month of February, this was the average amount of megawatt hours we bought. Okay, and I say bought, this is not sales, this is bought. Okay, this year, February, that's what we bought. Okay, so with that, okay, customer bills are already going to be higher because their usage is higher. And remember, during the snowstorm or the storm, we had industries closed. Okay, some of them had to shut down also because their employees couldn't get there. So when you look at these numbers are elevated because of residential usage. You know, for the most part, industries, their bills are pretty much the same. That increases because of residential, okay? My cost in the past 3 years per megawatt hour is that. This past year, it was that, on average, okay, for the whole month, okay? As y'all know, I do a fuel adjustment every month, and it's typically just a month behind, and then it shows me how much money I have to recoup per kilowatt hour, okay? Or it shows me the dollars, and then I distribute it over per kilowatt hour, okay, to each customer, Okay, that normally runs in between 0, sometimes a credit, to a half a penny, okay? On average, though, the amount of dollars I've had to collect over the past 3 years is $60,000 above what my rates already collect, okay? And remember, in my rates, I already have 3 cents built in, okay, for energy and fuel costs, okay? So normally I just have to spread out $60,000. I just got the numbers yesterday afternoon. That's what I'm gonna have to collect. Okay. When I first talked to y'all, I said I'm gonna spread it over evenly over the 3 months. With what I am seeing, what I am suggesting, and I want to get y'all's feedback, buy-in, I'm saying my fuel adjustment for the month of February, because the customers are going to have so much more usage, the higher usage, their bills are already going to be high. Most customers don't look at it and say, well, I'm only paying 6 cents per kilowatt hour. They look at that bottom number and see how many dollars the bill is and say, my bill is high. Period. That's all they look at.
We got the most expensive rates around anywhere.
Exactly. So, what I am suggesting is only recouping the normal number because their bills are already going to be high because their usage is going to be high. And then the next 2 months, let me blend this 750 minus the 60, so then the rest of the dollars I'll spread over the months of April and May, okay? And because normally April and May, because everybody's bills normally drop, okay? Because I hope, like right now, the past few days, I hope people have their air off and their heat off and they got the windows open. And they're not using as much as electricity or gas, whatever it is.
So I think we need to do as much as we can to help the town.
I totally agree. That's a whopping number.
And with
I know.
man, it's gonna kill some people.
I know.
Really.
And I can tell you, the ones I'm most worried about are the all-electric homes. That's the ones, and I can tell you, we have some on this side of town, but I know where some are that are not very energy efficient. They're down on, I know the area, it's over on East Polk area. Those homes are all electric, and their bills, just their usage is going to be high. So again, what I'm asking is, and again, we have the funds. And I might come back to y'all next month and say, can I spread it over a few more months? My goal is to try to smooth this over the next few months as evenly as I can. I've got to collect this amount of dollars, okay?
Do you have a feel about how much those bills are gonna be?
Okay. Lola, we have not, we don't see the numbers until until they're actually posted. I can't get on a computer and see it because they're just in process. They're reading them, they're doing all the processing, looking at the numbers, and they're looking at some of them, and some of the customers are, well, you can see my purchases is about 25–30%. I'm hearing some customers are, their usage numbers are up 30 to 50%. In other words, what they normally see like over last month. So somebody that had a 2,000 kilowatt hour bill will have a 3,000 kilowatt hour bill. Yeah.
Those bills are gonna be.
Just their usage alone is going to drive the dollars high. Again, what I'm asking is, I will just collect this amount of fuel adjustment for this month, okay? Because the usage is going to be high. Because again, customers do not look at, well, my cost per kilowatt hour is still low. They look at that bottom dollar and say, how many dollars am I having to pay?
And Tom,
Yes, ma'am.
now, you know, we realize from Dallas's situation, Texas situation, and the costs that some of those citizens are experiencing at this time. And I know this cost is not going to be like that.
No, ma'am.
6, 7, 8 hundred, $1,000.
Yeah, ours is.
But
way-
to people who are struggling,
Yes,
it's gonna feel like that. Is there any way we can, my question is there any way we can use, add information to the next bills that are going out? You say they look at the bottom line, and we
They look at the
look at how
dollars.
much how much we're going to pay. Some type of notation, some type of a message that will soften this blow. If I know it's coming and I'm gonna get whatever the federal's gonna send out to me, I don't need to splurge on this. I need to put a little bit aside. I mean, that's gonna be a cushion in the mind for some of them. But at least they will have an up on what they're gonna be facing.
Yes, ma'am. I can put, we have a spot at the bottom
I know
where
we
we
have-
can put some notes, but how many people
I mean, on the
read it?
actual bill, I know
Yeah,
we
it's
have a
on the bill.
website, the city website, but how many people are gonna go to it?
So,
I mean, a note on our bill, you
Yes, ma'am.
know,
It-
somewhere on
it's
our
on the
bill.
bill, at the bottom of the bill.
is it more effective though to put a note at the bottom of the bill or put an insert of a different color in with the bill, like a pink sheet or a yellow sheet or something?
And don't put.
I mean, a little bit more to let
Y'all,
them know.
I think that doing an insert is, I mean, if
I
y'all
mean, you got
remember,
a lot
I did.
more on that sheet you send out. You got a lot more room to put a script.
Yeah, on,
They could
as
craft
an
a
insert, and like you said, very short, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what we're doing. We can do something like that. I don't have a problem doing an insert. And I think, like you said, if it's a different color,
It'll stand out.
That makes
it'll stand out to them. Because if you remember, when we were doing online payment stuff, I put it 2 months in a row, and we still have people saying, man, I didn't know you were doing online payments.
But
You know,
we-
and that was inserts.
Can you put it
We
in
need to get it
the
out there.
code on the
No,
bottom?
no, we can't. Our system upstairs, it prints in black. Everything it does is in black. The only reason you have color on your bill is because what's in color
Underline,
is pre.
put it in parentheses. Underline,
Reprint.
bold.
Put it in on a different sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And we can't change the font.
Bold.
Y'all need an assistant.
Can't bold.
I'm not over that department.
We're trying to take it.
I think what Ms. Brown is saying is we need to do as much as we can to communicate that
Right.
to our
Yeah,
customers
okay.
beforehand.
And so, are y'all good with doing an insert that has it, and I will do that in the bill? It's a whole separate sheet of paper, and we'll make,
Is that more
making it
expensive?
color.
So,
But for my purposes, are y'all okay, or maybe I need a motion in a second, with only collecting the 60,000 that we normally collect, okay? And then spreading the rest of it over the next couple months. And I might come back to y'all and say, and I need to spread it out even more, okay? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
well, no, I'm sorry, you guys. Last month you asked for 3 bills. This month you're asking for 2. Why would you
Well-
do this time instead of 3?
Because at first I was saying spread it over this bill coming up.
Okay.
The one that we're about to send out this month.
Coming out here in a few days.
That's right. And what I'm saying is, okay, let me rethink that. Because when I'm starting to see how much we bought, how big the number is, and I knew the number was gonna be large.
You just didn't have a
Larger.
number. You just
I didn't have a
didn't
number
have
yet.
a number and
Yeah,
how it's used
now,
and how we know where we're at.
and I also know that customers' bills are gonna be large already because of their usage. And again, and I'll just let y'all know, the governor has implemented a commission, it's an energy commission that is meeting. A representative from the Arkansas cities is being represented on that commission, looking at this event and seeing what we can do, you know, the impact of all of Arkansas people. Because this was not only, this was not West Memphis, this was the state of Arkansas saw this. And some areas that are in a different footprint, y'all hear me talk about MISO, people that were in SDP were affected worse than we were. And, because I can tell you, and there is a customer, a city that we decided to represent. Their number that they're being affected is about 15 times that size that they're having to go back to their customers with. Yeah, this has affected multiple people across the front. Our contracts are fixed, for the price is fixed, okay, except for the portion we buy from our coal plants. That's what we buy from the market, okay? That's what these dollars are. The power supply contract was a fixed price. If we wouldn't have had that, this would have been, yes, did we pay a little bit more to have a fixed price contract? Yeah, but when days go bad, it's a blessing to have a fixed price contract. You know.
So I guess you're looking for a motion.
Yeah, I would like to have a motion to at least start out saying for the billing in the month of March, we're only going to collect $60,000 of the fuel adjustment.
Use the average number for the month of February.
Yes, use the average number of the past 3 years to use, and then the rest will be collected in the next 2 months as seen.
And that you're gonna communicate that.
Yes, I will keep, every month I will let you know how much of this month, every month I will follow with y'all and let you know how much of this dollars is being reduced, okay?
So I guess, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we bill the fuel adjustment for average for the following month. Then the increased fuel adjustment, we bill over the following 2 months after this.
March,
I guess maybe I should say specific. March bill, average. In April and May, we make up the difference. However, we're going to put that. Maybe I'm not being a lawyer.
have a motion by
We
Mr.
got a lawyer over
Barnes,
there.
second by Mrs. Brown. Any further discussion? All in favor? All
Thank you.
opposed?
And I'll also take care of getting your insert in there.
Thanks.
We will make sure that happens.
That'll make a difference in how they.
I hope, and I'll put these numbers in here. I don't have a problem putting these numbers. I'll go in, or is that too much? I'm asking. Too much.
That's too much.
That's too much.
Just explain.
Just explain that, hey,
You're gonna
this,
spread it
we
down.
incurred an extra, just to let y'all know, my actual bill from our customer, our person who handles our contract last year was $700,000. This year is $1.7 million. The reason this number is lower is because our coal plants, some of them did run and was able to pay us money that energy was sold in the market. If the coal plants would have ran 100% and wouldn't have had, they also had issues because of the snow and the ice. I mean, that's what literally the equipment in Arkansas and Louisiana and Texas is not designed to handle the temperatures we saw for the duration that they were here. And that's what happened. I mean,
So I guess another thing we probably need to at least be prepared to address is we're doing this to mitigate huge bills in March,
yep. but
we're causing the next 2 months after that bills to go up higher than usual too.
that is correct.
So we might need to.
And I think that's what I'm gonna point out is their normal lower, because what's gonna happen is,
They're gonna forget.
I know. And again, the next 2 months after this, their cost per kilowatt hour will be higher, but their total bill, dollar-wise, shouldn't be much higher. Okay? If not higher, it's gonna go down because they're gonna have less usage. But again, most people, residents, okay, don't look at, well, my cost per kilowatt hour is 10 cents or 9 cents. They don't care. All they want to know is how much dollars do I got to pay you? That's all they care about. So that's what I think we need to focus on is, okay, what affects, because again, the customer, if they're on a fixed income, it's about how many dollars am I paying you?
and seeing you want to try to do it in April and May. because what
The bills are
happens in
already
June,
cheaper.
the air conditioners come up and the bills start going up.
That's
Sorry,
exactly right.
I did not use the electricity, and they're not gonna.
I hadn't run my air conditioner at all, why is my bill so high?
We might have that in March. We might have this month. Oh, it's nice outside, yeah, but, because I can tell you, every single one of our bills are going to have the usage from February. All right, sorry to digress in there.
Well, we need to.
All right,
It could be worse.
It could be a lot worse.
go ahead. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Just spread it out.
Like he said.
Like you said.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is customer request. Mr. Pudding?
No,
Oh,
power purchase agreement.
okay, excuse me. Sorry. I got ahead of myself.
All right, that's me also. All right, I'm gonna be very, very vague in my discussion because I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, and because the reason I'm being vague is because we're getting towards the end of executing a potential contract, okay? We have been looking at, as y'all know, the coal plants, I can tell you, will be offline by 2030. When I say offline, they'll stop producing electricity by coal. There has not been a plan of what's going to happen yet. I can just tell you by 2030, all four of them will be off. So we have got to start looking at how are we going to serve our citizens after that generation goes offline, okay? We need a good mix of fuel, okay? We have been in negotiations and we're discussing and have been doing contract terms, okay? And I can tell you, Jason Carter has been representing us with, who y'all know is our AMPA General Counsel, in these negotiations, okay? There is a developer out there who is developing a large solar facility in eastern Arkansas, okay? We are looking at buying a portion of that facility. The piece is 20 megawatts, okay? As y'all know, White Bluff, we own 16, Independence, we own 16, okay? This will be a piece of the facility that we hopefully will start to replace what our coal facilities are providing us now. The PPA timeline is still in discussions, but the PPA timeline is a 25 to 30 year PPA. And I can tell you, I am not the only city that is in these negotiations. So it's multiple cities, okay? We're all working together, looking at buying into a portion of this facility.
This is just a portion of our overall,
That is correct.
so that if we get covered with snow and solar panels don't work, we got something to fall back on.
That's right. This is just step one. Because I can tell you, I think we need to have, you need to have a blended type of portfolio when you're looking at your power supply. We need to look at owning some gas units, okay? Do we need to own enough to handle all our load? No. Do we need to have some that handles a portion of them? Yes, okay? And there's multiple cities, I mean, those of you who are been on here a long time, the units that we own, there's actually 4 cities in the state that are part owners of those coal plants. And so all 4 of those cities will be looking for generation to help replace that generation.
So what happened, you say those coal plants, there's no plan to retrofit at this point?
At this point. At this point, the only thing I can tell you is what is written is they will stop generating electricity with the use of coal.
So If those plants go away, this new contract would be nice to have. If those plants don't go away,
They're going away.
well, but I mean,
Well, yeah, okay.
they get changed over.
Oh, okay, to something else, to some type of
Fuel
other,
source.
a different fuel
It's
source.
still not a bad idea.
I agree.
So either way,
Right,
so it really doesn't matter what's gonna happen to those
correct.
plants.
Because we own 1% of those facilities. 1% of those facilities, 33 megawatts. I'm looking at doing a PPA for 20, is what I'm looking at, okay? And, that'll give us 53 megawatts, okay? Our peak is 90 megawatts, okay? Who feels the difference is that's what that other contract we have with currently Clico, in the future will be NextEra. They feel the difference in that energy when our units aren't online, or they feel the difference every day, okay? Now, the reason I'm wanting to talk to y'all about this is I might be calling an impromptu meeting. Because this is one of those things, it's like, oh, we gotta get this done, but everybody wants to keep it hush-hush because they're still doing negotiations with everybody. It's so frustrating. I'm like, guys, y'all don't realize the world I live in, okay? I can't sit behind and just tell CEOs what's going on, okay? I'll say this will be an excellent opportunity for the citizens of West Memphis, long-term. Again, this PPA will be at a fixed price, okay? And it's very competitive in today's market. So when you start looking at having a fixed price of energy for the next 25 to 30 years, that's stability to your rates for a long time.
And flexibility.
Right, because it allows you to do other things also. Any questions?
You need a motion?
No, again, it's a more, because again, I'm probably going to go to city council and talk to them about it, because again, it's going to be, some of the other cities have more, they are able to sign agreements without approval of their city council and commission. And it's always subject to their approval. We can't do that because I will not be the one signing the agreement. I can't sign it. The others that are in part in this can sign agreements. Their general managers can. I cannot. This will have to be signed by the mayor, so it will have to get city council approval prior to him signing it. Am I right about that?
I would think so.
I would think so. I thought so too. I told him I can't do what y'all can do. I don't have that much authority. Others, they're run a little bit different than we are.
A whole lot more complicated than when I first got on.
Oh, you better believe it.
We bought everything from Entergy.
Yeah,
P&L back then, they sent us a bill, we paid them.
yeah. The world is different. I ain't gonna say it's better or worse, but it's different than what it used to be.
That's working.
It works. That's right, it works.
It works.
It works.
Okay, any other questions?
All right, thank y'all.
Okay. Mr. Foley, excuse me.
Sorry.
If you would come up here where we can all look at you. Those neighbors at you.
Okay.
Hitting
Can
you.
y'all understand me? Because I'm not taking my maintenance off. Can y'all understand? Can y'all understand? Okay. My name is James Williams. Of course, I'm here today. I'm not here as a city clerk of West Memphis. I'm here as a citizen. And my address is 500 Odell Road, West Memphis, Arkansas. And I come here before you today because on February the 23rd, somewhere around that 10 o'clock in the morning, I observed trees being cut down over on, it's not an address, it's a vacant lot. The boys checked all the trees and I asked why, were they cutting the trees down? He said, we ordered them to cut them down. Now, that's fine. But to me, I'm thinking if the trees are a threat to the wires, that's one thing. But if they're not, I don't think we should be cutting them down because technically I think we violate the, public, what do you call it, the public trust. But at the same time, what you say, you cut them down on the lot because they was in the line, but if you go and take a look, some of those trees were trimmed up by our tree trimmers that was not anywhere close to those wires. And really, the reason I brought this up, because this happened far too many times. I mean, you can go certain places, you can see where the tree's been cut down, and you can go certain places, you can see where the tree's been butchered. And I think, which I asked for a policy, he said that they don't have, y'all do not have one. But I think you should come up with a policy. You know, I mean, standard SOP of how you gonna cut, don't trim the trees, because if you don't have any policies in place, well, you can go out and do anything. And I believe that when it comes to public services, you can't just give it away to the community unless it's benefiting the community as a whole. And if it's not benefiting the community as a whole, you can't just do that. So I would suggest this body recommend that he come up with a policy, standard operation on how they're going to cut the trees, because, again, Mr. Money sitting back there in the back, Councilman Money, he knows for a fact. I mean, some trees are being butchered, some trees are being pruned to the max. And I just think that it shouldn't be. And so that's what I'm here for today to ask. I mean, I don't know if he has anything to say, but we have pictures, and some people have been. I've been took a look, councilman and all. So I'm just saying, I just think a policy should be put in place. And you got to see the attorney. Would you recommend that to the attorney?
I don't know, I'm not
Okay.
ready for policy or not at this point.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
Okay. Well, that's fine, but again, you know, see, and here's the truth with this. I am a citizen of West Memphis. It shouldn't be giving away our public service, period, to anyone. And if you are, I have a right to file whatever I need to file. I mean, that's just the truth of it. And if that's the way you have to stop it, that's the way it's going to stop. Because you shouldn't do it. It shouldn't be done. So that's what I wanted to bring before you today. Then I have a second situation that I want to bring before you all, and it does have to do with, it has something to do with the city clerk. On that same day, when I called Mr. Peterson, he had to sign some invoices, which actually come to the mayor, then they come to me. They came to me on that same date that this incident happened, which they came to me 2 or 3 days later. He had stamped though his name, not the name, but the date in every place that the city clerk was supposed to have signed. Now, that was not by accident. That was intentional. And I'm like this right here. When it comes to business, I'm a serious professional, okay? And I think anytime you run a multi-million-dollar operation, that's childish. You shouldn't have done that, but he did. And I told the mayor, if he do it again, I would not sign another invoice to come from here over there. Because that was deliberately done. That's all I got to say.
I don't fully understand your last part there about being
Well-
stamped.
Well, I signed all the invoices that the mayor signed in the city, okay?
Right.
The same date that this incident, and I talked to Mr. Twitch, I texted I told the council on it. And of course, again, that same date, when about 15 invoices came over to me, okay? He normally stamped them on the top or in the middle. This particular time, he stamped every one of them where I was supposed to sign. But I signed them anyway, but I said again, he comes across here like that again, I will not sign. So you really won't get paid.
What stamp are you talking about?
Okay, well, I mean, you stamped the date.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, you didn't do it, okay.
With someone in the office?
Oh,
No. Nobody from the utilities
Okay.
stamps a date.
Okay, all right. That's what you said, but the
No,
senior,
hold on.
the senior deputy clerk can tell you when he came over, it was stamped like that. It had never been stamped like that before. It had never been stamped like that before, but they were stamped that particular day with your initials on it.
Can I speak now?
Yes, sir.
I wasn't going to interrupt
Well-
Mr. Pulliam.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. I think what he's talking about is, all we do is we stamp it, okay? We'll talk about that one first. We stamp it with okay, where things have to be signed. It's either done by my purchasing agent to start the signature process, okay? Then, or by Miss Danielle. Miss Danielle's not here, so we'll do it up front. That's the official first stamp. It's just blank, no initials, nothing, okay? Then my supervisors, or department supervisors, then are required to sign it at the top, okay? And says, hey, this is submitted by me, okay? Unless it's something that is specifically only me. And then I would sign it, okay? And I do where the GM is, okay? Then it goes upstairs. Upstairs, who is finance, who does not work for utilities at all, stamps dates on it. Because they want to know what dates they receive them. Because sometimes what happens is, because we have so much paper flowing through this city, it goes upstairs and they stamp the date they received it, so they have a benchmark. So that, you said I did, it was not I at all.
Well, it had TP and then.
Okay, I have this summary.
I just see if it happened again, it will not get paid. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, and that's your choice. But again, you accused me of the one that stamped it. I did not stamp it.
Maybe you did. No
Okay.
issues is on it. That's all I can go by. It's just like anything else that goes on in the clerk's office, regardless, I'm the one that's responsible.
Right,
So
but
you are responsible
and I understand that.
for it. Okay.
And I'm not the one that stamped it though.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Well, I think maybe you should get with him and show him.
I know what he's talking about, but again, it's not me.
Okay.
But it's only one stamp on that particular invoice?
Well, what they do is stamp, he signed, the mayor signed, I signed. I'm the last one to sign.
But there's a date stamped on there also.
Yes, sir.
But that date is not by me. The date is done by finance. That's the finance department.
So who's actually stamping it at finance?
Dana, the ladies upstairs.
Okay.
Okay, Todd, let me ask you this, starting with the last part that Mr. Pulliam mentioned, the invoice, okay. The city has a process for that, you have an order for that.
The utilities does their process and then it goes to the city. And then they do their process.
Okay, so you have an order for that? I mean, you have an order in place for that?
I guess. We do our part, yes. And then after that, the city does what they are supposed to do.
Okay, now who determines the order of that?
The city
Is that-
department managers.
Beg pardon?
The city department managers. The only thing I do is stamp it and allocate. I put the amount of dollars I want the check written for, the account that it's going to, and then my department supervisors, if it's something that's bought by engineering or electrical or water, I require those city department supervisors to sign off being submitted by. Miss Tina does our petty cash. She says, this is what I'm doing. I say, you're signing off saying this is what correct, and then I verify it, and there's a GM spot. Below the GM spot, there is the mayor has to sign and the clerk signs. Now, once it goes upstairs, they do other stuff with it, like stamping it with a date. I have no control over that. Those people do not work for me.
So, that particular, the second part, does that come under the jurisdiction of us here?
No.
Does that come under?
No. That's
That's a process, a procedure.
Those personnel work for the city.
Okay. Now, what about the first issue that Mr. Pulliam brought up? The first issue?
On the trees.
Uh-huh.
What I want to show you is, and I'm going to bring up, and forgive me. All right, these are the trees that he's talking about. You can see that tree right there. That's one of the trees. You can see these trees right here. These trees have been a nuisance to us. And here, let me go over we don't have a formal written policy. It's not in writing. But we bid tree trimming every year, okay? And it's written on there, our specs of how we want them trimmed, okay? We say 10 foot off of the phase, okay? Ground to sky. That means I want it from top to bottom. Why 10 foot? National Electric Safety Code, clearances. When I am asking for easements, I want 10 foot off that outside phase. Because if somebody builds in that area, it is within the tolerances of the National Electric Safety Code. So do we have something formally written? No. Okay? Do we follow code? Yes, we do, and we follow those clearances. Now, I can tell you, there are some areas, okay, that we cannot follow code. That tree is 80 foot tall. And you can see we shaved the heck out of that tree to keep the and why did we never cut that tree? Because I can tell you, this picture right here is not from just 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, okay? All righty? This tree is from, this picture is probably from 4 years ago. This is on the internet. Get on Google Maps and you can look at it. Go to Street View and you can look at that picture. Okay, why?
This is Missouri.
Hold on. This is actually Graham. This is Graham. And that property line, this is Missouri. Okay? This is Graham. This is the back row of that property. Okay? This is the back line. You can see it's a three-phase line, a primary feeder coming out of our substation. Okay? In other words, if that tree fell on that wire, and I can tell you, those trees have been considered being cut down for years, as long as I've been here. Why did we never cut them down? Because there was 2 houses right next to them that we couldn't fall the tree. So when we take in consideration, and I don't take this in consideration, okay? When I say I don't take in consideration, I let the professionals, and when I mean the professionals, the electric department that has a foreman that is a tree trimming guy, okay? When I came down through here and I knew these trees were like this, I drove down Missouri and I said, those houses are gone. Whoever owned the property tore them down. Didn't have a clue who it was. I said, they're gone. I went to Mike, I said, go look at them trees. Get with Josh, who is my foreman, and look at getting rid of the trees, okay? I said, make sure it's safe enough to get them away where we don't hit nothing. Because I can tell you, our tree trimmers, the one thing they hate is cutting big stuff around a lot of houses. They'd love to cut trees out in the middle of nowhere, okay? So, we cut these trees prior to the ice storm, okay? We cut them and we trimmed them. It was a total of 3 trees. Why 3? There was only 2 in the power lines, okay, that we needed to address, okay? But the tree trimmer, my professional said, look, if I try to drop these trees, this tree is in my way, okay? It might hit the tree, bounce back, and go back on my lines. I said, get permission from the homeowner. If they're okay with it, and you are comfortable with dropping them and not tearing stuff up, that's the key. We don't want to potentially have a liability when we do this, okay? We look at that. Because I can tell you, there are some trees I would love to cut down, but they're leaning right towards houses. And I'm not going to cut them down because then I'm accepting liability when we cut it if it goes the wrong way. And sometimes trees decide to go the wrong way. You can ask Mr. Downing about that. He knows of an experience where things don't always go right. Okay? So, we cut them down prior to the ice storm and snowstorm. Okay? The day he is talking about, we were cleaning up our mess. The trunks were still there. We cut out the tops and got rid of the top side of the trees. Okay? Then my guys had to go back after it dried up to get up in there. Because again, right after snowstorm, he even said, I can't get in there, okay, and cut them. So they went in there, they cut them down, okay, and left the stumps and the big logs were still there, and then they came back and cleared out the logs and the rest of the stuff after the fact. Were those logs on the ground now? Yes. But are they a mess we made? Yes, they were. And I can tell you, I think Y'all want me to clean up my messes.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Okay.
First of all, you showing a picture where the trees we're talking about is not even involved. I know you're seeing part of it. Why didn't you take the picture from Missouri Street? Actually, okay, you said you cut the third tree down. Why didn't you just cut the top out the tree like y'all normally do? I mean, I can take you and show you now when you cut trees and butcher them. So, I mean, it just looks bad. Of course, Engineers do the same thing when they come, just like they came down Avalon. But y'all should have did the same thing, not cut the tree all the way down to the ground. It wasn't warranted.
Let me say something here. Most of the time, when you see those trees scalp, the homeowner will not give us permission to cut them down.
But
The homeowners scream and holler because we trim like they do. But this homeowner gave us permission to cut those down.
But when you get through talking, it still wasn't in the public interest. I mean, I'm talking about to serve the public. That was an individual. But what you should have done was cut them back just like the third tree you're talking about. If you go down there and look, you can take a look at those trees where those are not even close to the street, where they trim them up. Just go down there and take a look. The evidence is still there. It ain't like making up something.
When you say it's not in public interest, why is that?
If you said yourself a minute ago that the third tree, you just went on and cut it down. It was close, it might have failed them, but they said, well, your foreman said that the tree, if you cut the other two, it might fall into that tree. Why didn't you cut the tree down, the top out the tree, if y'all professional tree trimmer? That's what professional tree trimmer do, cut the top out and then
They gotta drop the tree.
Okay.
They gotta have somewhere for the tree to fall.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, but I'm here today, like I said, if y'all need to come up with a policy. Now, I mean.
I don't think we need to have a policy, because the policy is so already written.
Okay.
It's based on our easements.
Okay.
There are some areas that are
And I strongly
easements,
agree. Well, why would it be in writing?
some of our easements, okay? There's areas that don't have easements. And if we want to write a formal policy, it's going to say exactly what National Electric Safety Code says. I don't know why.
Okay.
It changed, because if code changes, then your policy needs to change also.
Todd, do you have a Google Earth?
That is kind of Google Earth.
Yeah, I know that's true.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, and I can tell you, me trying to run Google Earth from the top side here, you're not,
Okay.
But
okay?
all three trees are on the,
That property.
okay, up in the property, or
No.
all of them?
Two of them, I can tell you, two of them were, there was two that were up on the lines. And I can tell you, when you're trying to drop a tree, it needs to have somewhere. What his concern was, and again, I took the advice of the man that's been doing it since he came out of high school. He said, I need to drop this tree right here. If it hits that tree right there, it might bounce back and then go into our power lines. Okay?
So we cut the other one.
We cut that one. And when we cut it, we clean it up. If we cut it, we clean it up, period. If we go in somebody's yard and we make ruts, we try to go back and clean it up. If we go in and take
Is
a
that-
fence
is that the
down,
lot where there was some old houses there?
Two houses.
That's him.
Right where-
that's them.
right where-
Those two houses are gone. This is the back side of that lot. That's the very back side of that lot. That lot went all the way over to these houses right here. That's how far that lot
You
went.
can go down and take a look for yourself. You see like.
Basically, in this picture, you're basically standing
Anywhere close to the line.
at the State Farm parking lot, looking north, parallel.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. State Farm is right behind
You
you.
say you
The old
talked to
Fred
the
Leonard,
owner.
where Fred Leonard used to be.
But you talked to the owner.
I did not. Mike did.
I did.
All I know is I knew about those trees, and I said, them houses are gone. Mike, get with the foreman, see if you can get those trees down now. The houses are gone. That's the key. And we asked permission from the owner, can we drop these trees? And they said yes.
Because they were a hazard to the power.
And our cost, there is no extra cost.
Here's something, these trees may not be on the easement, but they are a danger to those power lines. I've worked tornadoes, storms with disaster relief group. Older trees fall out. They have limbs fall out of them, and they break, and they don't always go where you think they are. And the easiest thing, the safest thing is to remove the tree. As long as I've been on here, those trees have been discussed before. You couldn't take them down because the houses were there. If you tried to go one way with them, they'd take the power lines out. The other way, they'd take the houses out. They are no longer a problem to that power line. Primary
Mr.
power
Chairman,
line.
I have taken you in certain areas of town, and I can show you, when you start talking about the danger of trees falling because of tornadoes or whatever, I can take you about 10 or 15 places and show you that.
Well,
Am I right or wrong?
can you give us permission to take those trees down to the ground?
Hold on, can you give me permission to cut them down, and that there is no liability, that if it hits the house, the city won't be sued?
What did you
That's
get-
what
did you
changed
get that in
things.
writing when you went, when you?
The houses weren't there, James, they were gone.
Okay,
So guess what?
okay.
If those areas, because I know about some of them, there's some apartments, I can tell you, that there's some major issues, and there's some cottonwoods that are about 100 foot tall, I would love to take out. But guess what? If something happens and they go the wrong way, okay, and all it takes is one and they fall in the middle of that apartment building, who's paying for it?
Now, I do agree with you that I think we should have had written permission and a release of liability from the property owner,
Well,
even though there's no buildings there.
well, actually, for the conversation itself, I'm through with it, but I'm saying this, there needs to be a standard operating procedure put in place on how you're doing the tree trimming across the city. Now, that needs to happen. Now, if you feel you're not gonna do it, do y'all plan to do it or not? That's my answer. That's the answer that I want from you today. Are you gonna do it or not do it? If you don't think you need a standard operating procedure for that, I'm thinking of city outside, we need to have one for everything.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Mr. Chairman, I do agree that there should be an SOP. With all the experience that you've had in the military, Jerry Burns has had in the military, anybody else in here, James, myself in the military, there was an SOP for everything. Everything. Whether you used that SOP or not, it was still for everything, okay? It takes the liability off of people. By 42 years at Langston, we had SOPs, we wrote SOPs and stuff up for every little thing that had to be done, any kind of job function. And I think if you did have a standard operating procedure, it would probably take a little pressure off of most people. But I'm going to leave this up to the commission whether they want to do it or not.
I have no issue with a standard operating procedure that is written, but again, you can't say that encompasses everything. Because again, if I say our clearances are, we're going to clear from 10 foot, okay, from ground to sky on everything, I'm going to be out there and I'm going to have homeowners wanting me to remove trees, okay, that are a danger to their home that I don't feel is in the best interest of this city. You see what I'm saying?
I understand exactly. There's always gray area.
Well, that's not gray. That's a very clear. If I cut that tree down, that is, if I write that procedure, and I write it, it's in my easement, I'm like, hey, this tree's been here that long, and I cut it and it falls on that building, y'all are going to be back at this meeting looking at me going, why'd you do that? Then you use some common sense.
But I mean, Todd, we just talked about specifications that have to be made for the 10-foot easement. So, I mean, I think there's a way that you could probably come up with.
As long as you are giving some authority or leeway to management to do their job, that's the key.
That could be.
Because always, and you know this and all of us know this, you can have a standard operating procedure
And you're not gonna have one for every little thing, because you're gonna come up with an instance that
You
this
can't
does
come
not.
up with-
that-
Standard operating procedure is just like the policy. They change when you need to change it. They change when you need to change it. I still believe that you need to have standard operating procedure.
All right.
I would just leave it with the commission, let the commission decide what they want to do.
Okay, anybody else?
It may be something we could study, we could look
Well,
at it
yeah.
and
You talk about SOP in the military, when the first bullet flies, it's out the door.
Well, I know that,
Yeah.
because, you know, you always
You
got
know
that,
that too.
you've always got that catch-all phrase at the
Right.
bottom of the SOP.
Anything not covered in the.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we will take this up and look at it and discuss it, and, appreciate everybody. Update on, wastewater.
Sorry, man. This delay. Yeah, it's one to think about it.
I am. I've got 46 slides and spend 10 minutes on each slide. I think you need to.
I'm still working lunch too.
Well, like I said, hold it now, I got work to do. Yeah, he's gonna go quickly.
I know this is running a little long, and if anybody else needs to go, my feelings won't be hurt too bad. Just want to give you an update on where the engineering department is and the projects that we worked on last year and where we're headed this year. And I'll move through this quickly. Just the most important thing we're working on is the corrective action plan that we developed with Arkansas AEDQ in response to the 2 years of rain and Mississippi River being out of its banks, flooding all of our sewer systems and causing us to have some bypasses, which I think every municipal utility in the state has been written out by the state by that with one of these, just because we had very unusual conditions. And the cornerstone of what got our program off to a start, because it's quick to do and make some progress while we're doing the deeper dive, is to rehab the manholes. And I just wanted to give you an idea of why that's an issue. And today the manholes are prefab, and they're all one piece, or you stack them and they've got engineered seal around them. But earlier they were made out of bricks, and we've got hundreds of them across the city. And this is a great example of how not to do it with a brick. You can see the seams are lined up. Now this one is shallow, so we didn't have a big problem with this one, but we've got to go in and line it, because when it rains, the water goes down the side of the manhole, or it comes up from the bottom and goes into the leaks. So we did $600,000 worth of work last year. We've opened bids and have started $400,000 of work this year. And this is what it looks like. Sometime trying to get AJ down there, sprays a coating inside the manhole, seal all those bricks, and keeps it from leaking. And that's a highly engineered coating. We've got several to choose from, and they're customized for each use. That's not the only problem we have. We have even a manhole that's in one piece can let in a lot of rainwater And you can see here, here's the manhole, and you can see this zone right through here where all the grass is dead. That's where the water's been. And that's the same level as the top of the manhole. So whenever the water in that lot got up to there, it was pouring into the manhole. And here's how AJ fixed that. Got a nice concrete collar on it, raised the manhole. That's what we've been doing for the last couple of years, or including this year. And our next move would be to start lining some of the old mains. We talked about this briefly earlier on Wood Street. We had to do this, and this is what they call a sock that goes in the main, and it's heated up. It's inflated, heated up, and as it cures, it becomes a new pipe. We've got the study's done, and we're going back through and identifying mains that would benefit from this, coming up with a list. We'll be bidding that out. We're going to be bidding that out as a multi-year project. We'll get better bids for it, and so that's kind of the next phase of the out in the neighborhood type work. Other things we did related to this, well, upgrade pump stations. Pump Station 1, they're off of Wood Street, just off of Broadway, was rebuilt. Replaced the pumps on Pump Station 15, which is the one on Ingram by Ppa Timeline. And then this year, we're rebuilding Pump Station 3, which is by Walmart. Pump Station 4, which is Lear and 10 Mile Bayou, and Pump Station 9, which is at the end of South Avalon. Those three are all connected, and you'll see in a minute why we're working on those. Here we go. We've got a new force main that we're going to be running from Pump Station 3 to 4 and then out to 9. And that takes it off Station 8. And as Todd's told you before, we have this cascading system where each pump station pumps to the next pump station, and at some point, one of the pump stations it gets full. So over on the South Roselawn part of town, the people suffer from this cascading, and this is going to eliminate that problem. They were in here 2 years ago addressing the commission about the problem. And we've been working on it. You can't go out and look at it. We've been working on it, and later this year we'll be tearing up streets to get this in. But as you see now, Pump Station 3 goes to 4, goes to 6, which is by the library, which goes to 7, which is at the end of Wood Street. It goes to 8, it goes to the treatment plant. And after that, 304 will go directly to 9. We're upgrading all three of those pump stations to fit with this new force main design, and then it goes to the treatment plant, which will take quite a load off of 8. Right now, within the next 2 weeks, the design will be submitted to the health department, and we expect that review to be very short, and we expect it to be out for bid, and we may actually be working on this before the end of the year. 2020 will be remembered as a year of sinkholes, I think. The river was out for over a year and a half. A lot of our lines were in the groundwater, and this is the one across from Big Star. I was driving to work that morning, and just there it was. So we had them all over town. The one that caused us the biggest hassle was the one at the end of Wood Street. You can see, okay, there we go. Right here is the manhole, there's another manhole over here, and here's the street. And that's how far that sunk. And there's all the water that's still coming up. And it wasn't just the manholes, we had lines that failed for the same reason. And this is just up from there on Wood Street. Had to dig it out, put in a new line, and replace the manhole. The manhole wasn't a problem, but it suffered because of the pipe failure. And then further up there, as we talked last year, that the line was taking in so much water, the bedding was destroyed and everything was sinking, so that we got that line. Also on 7th Street and Woods, we had the same thing, and you can see how deep these guys down here in the hole. that was a deep manhole, deep line, and that's why it was a problem, because it got into the groundwater. And here is just a calming pool. We've got pumps pumping the groundwater out so we can work, and it goes through this little pool to keep it from eroding the surrounding area. Same thing at on East Madison, and we had the same thing at Winchell and Jefferson. And again, the surface, a little hole here, that's just a pipe, there's no manhole. And here's how deep we had to go to repair that, and how much we had to take out. All of these require a bow pass, a couple pumps out there pumping around the dig, and we had bypasses for over a year at some locations. And the one I think that got the most talk about was on West Walnut. We tried doing the same repair technique where we dig them up and replace the pipe, and we tried for 2 months, could never get enough water out. I think we got one piece of pipe replaced. So we had to come back to the drawing board and came up with, instead of the big trench boxes, these circular boxes where we could replace the manhole, and this is where we tunneled. This one did a bore all the way up the street and rebuilt the manholes. And that's how much water is coming out of each manhole location, and we were not keeping up. And that's why that project took so long. So here we are one morning, made some success. We like these type of trench box, because you dig down 3 feet, you put the next piece in, you dig down 3 feet. It's real easy to do. So we went to lunch, and we came back from lunch, and here we go. We had some more groundwater. So we fought that battle for a while, and then we finally got, finally the river finally dropped, and the poor residents on West Walnut, we finally got their life back to normal. Then the other issue was sinkholes. At the pump station, we talked about the control building, big sinkhole formed under it. Sinkholes formed at the discharge line of the pump station. The river is up, the flood pond's got water in it because we don't want it empty because the river's up. We don't want these sand bowls out there undermining the levee, and our pumping capacity was reduced because the sinkholes caused the discharge lines to separate. And we had it on all sides. Here's the light pole there, fell into a sinkhole. And we finally had to tear the control building down before it collapsed on $1 million worth of controls. So that was a controlled demolition. And then we came to you in August or September. We wanted to get approval to put in grout walls on either side of the pump area because of the discharge line separating, within the discharge water was flowing around each side of the pump station, making the sinkholes even worse. And so that was a big Band-Aid that got us through. And that's what it looked like for a year and a half. That's the inlet into the pump station. Got a lot of growth in it, algae, and we could run the pumps, and the next day it looked just like that. Finally, the river went down. September, October, that's what it looks like. We love that site. That's what built up over the year and a half in front of the pump station. That's like 2.5 feet of mud. Some of that came from the sinkholes that were pumping up at the base of the pump station. Some of it just came in. We couldn't get enough flow to keep it moving. So we were in there cleaning that out. There's a view of the inlet, and you can see this is the bottom of the concrete. That's how much it built up, and it's a hard, but that's the bottom of the pump intake. So you had maybe a foot, and these things are supposed to have 3 feet. It's a wonder those things weren't cavitating and shaking. We were right on the edge. So we got all that cleaned out. The sinkholes were showing up along the spillway here, all across the front of the inlet, and then behind here, behind the walls. So we got a ground penetrating radar unit to come through, and it ran up against the walls and everywhere we couldn't dig, located all the big voids. We drilled into it with some expensive grout that was designed for either strength or expansion or, anyway, got all that filled and repairs done. Dug up the discharge lines, got them leveled, when we added these supports, which also have the screw-type piling that go down over 30 feet. So we're hoping that this does not happen again. So we had these 4 done. I think I got a picture of, yeah, we took out the old coupling, had to put in new flanges. That's the new coupling that was specifically designed for this application. Then this is the site we've been waiting for, is the backfill over those lines. So those discharge lines are repaired and ready for action. And then we started a new year with a flashbang down there. Something caught on fire. This is all the equipment that was taken out. And you can see this right here. Looks like a piece of cable. That's a snake. And there was another snake that had a mouse in its mouth. And so they were definitely at the wrong place at the wrong time. But we had to pull all that out, and it kind of made the decision for us how much of the control building we could reuse, the equipment, how much needed to be replaced. So that's where we are now. We're in the process of getting that redesigned and replaced. So this year, we're still dealing with some sinkholes. We have 4 that we just didn't get to last year. We've met with the contractor. We'll be addressing them. We can't do these ourselves because they're too deep. They need a track hole. We've done some ourselves that we can do with backhoe, but this is beyond our reach. Then we are replacing the roof on the plant down here where the foreman offices are and the warehouse. That's what it looks like, so it's about time for that. And then we're working on the sewage treatment plant, which is really finishing cherry on top of the cake for our CAP plan. The bond that Todd's been working on, at least $25 million for rehabbing and upgrading that and increasing the capability. And what he's doing there, he's got a little radar unit and we're mapping out where the rebar is and the spacing. It looks like tic-tac-toe, but the drawings had not been revised. It was clear that the drawings, the design drawings weren't up to date, so we had to get in and do that. So I tried to get through there as quickly as possible. Any questions? Why aren't you doing this? Or why did you do that? Or anything like that? Yes, sir. I knew there'd be one question.
Well, Ward, it's evident that you guys have been doing a lot of improvements to our drainage system. And you were certainly right about Roseline, where these people came in, the citizens came in 2 years ago, because I was on the commission then, and they were talking about all the issues they have when it rains on it. How much, refresh my memory on what the cost it was for this overhaul that we're doing.
Well,
And Todd, was it any part of the bond issue?
That is what's the bond issue. Everything we've been doing, so the Station 9, the Station 3 upgrade, all that is part of the CAP plan, which is going to be captured by the bond. By doing that resolution y'all did for me,
that allowed me to go ahead and start the project.
That's 60 days prior to the resolution.
That's right. Well, I haven't even, like the Station 3 and Station 4 stuff, we're still doing design. But the Station 9 is being done right now because Station 3 and 4 will get diverted and get over there. And the manhole rehabs we're doing right now. The key is I didn't start paying any of those bills until after that resolution. So the bond will be able to go back and pick them up. That's the key. When you saw that capital expenditure of $4.7 million, that's some of this stuff that my bonds will be able to come back and say, hey, these are dollars. So what is the cost of this? 30 million. And I'm gonna that's the start of it. Because the slip lining and all that, we've got to implement a proactive maintenance program on our sewer system from here going forward. And I don't mean as long as Todd's here, I'm talking about when Todd's dead. Okay? We need to start taking care of these issues forever.
There definitely been some flooding issues, and it has improved over the years. I think what Ward mentioned about, getting away from this cascading and going into this other system, that's going to improve that area over there.
But again, doing that, okay, removing taking 3 and 4 and having their own force main all the way out to Station 9, which goes straight, it saves me electricity because I'm not pumping it 10 times. But the other thing is Station 8, which is at West Jefferson, handles the east from basically, we'll call about Avalon East. So taking load off of Station 8 is going to lower the amount of water going to Station 8, which will help me also on the east end of town. Plus, Station 10, that is at the very end of Monroe, South 22. Thank you. Thank you, AJ. And Madison, it's down there. We're going to end up redirecting that and getting it off of 8, and that'll help the end. It is a process that it should have started 20 years ago, before I was employed here. And it's just that we got to start doing this. Our infrastructure it's getting older and older and older, and it needs some TLC.
Well, I know this is basically like a never-ending story, but but I would like to commend Ward yourself and all the efforts y'all are putting into doing this.
Thank you.
Now, my next question, Ward, is going to be: do you have a ETA on when you might finish all this? I know you won't ever finish it, but
Well, the force main should be out for bid, should be under construction, and I think we gotta go through one more wet season, and it'll be finished.
okay.
I am required by the state to be under the administrative order, to be under compliance by December 31st, 2023. So that wastewater treatment plant, and as long as we don't get a extension based on weather and other factors, because right now we're just doing design. We're trying to, and then we got to submit it to them for approval. Okay, and that's going to probably take them 6 to 9 months for ADQ to do their approval process. Then we got to do construction. That's the key. Once we start construction, again, you keep hearing him talk about the groundwater we keep getting in. One of the major things we're dealing with, and our engineers are continually looking at, is making sure they're not getting into that sand layer of dirt. Okay? In other words, you can't go too deep, because once you get so deep, now your bottom of all your apparatuses are in that sand layer, which we don't want to be in. We want to stay in the gumbo so that our stuff, when it gets that soluble sand, doesn't sink or have other issues. And because remember where our wastewater treatment plant is, y'all know where it is. It's right next to the levee. So, that's, why it's such a major deal with the design.
One more question, Ward, and then I'll be quiet. Does this include any dredging of any of the ditches inside the city now? Because you've got some ditches over in the northeast part of the city that are completely covered with vegetation and mature trees, and I don't even see how the water flows through there.
That's Public Works.
Each son.
All right, I'll say this has been cleaned. This was cleaned
Yeah.
because Todd told his tree trimmers to go clean that, because I was tired of it coming on me. My tree trimmers did this whole bank through here on our property. The only thing I can deal with is my property area.
Right.
But that is Public Works. If you saw that real nice pretty picture that he showed, okay, if you notice at one point you saw a bunch of trees. My tree trimmers went down there and cleared all that. And got that cleared out so that we don't have the trees growing into the banks and all that. So, you know, that's what's good about having the resources we do have and that expertise. So,
Good deal. Thank you, guys.
I've got a couple of questions. And you mentioned it, Public Works. Who paid for saving the Ward Member pumping station?
who paid for it up front, as y'all remember, the utilities are. We gave I'll call it a line of credit or borrow or whatever, to the city in $1 million. So, we've already spent, it's about $300,000 has been spent out of that. The city has already transferred $200,000, they said over 5 years, so they'll transfer back $200,000 each year. So the next 5 years, they're gonna transfer back from their public works or from drainage, and I'm not sure what it took out. That's a Ms. Tory question, back to me. But she has put it in there that that expense was not in those numbers, okay? Susan can explain it to you. Like, we got the opinion, it's not an expense to me, they just JV and show it there. I don't understand it, I'm gonna leave that alone. That's an accounting
I just
question.
knew that was not wastewater.
That's correct.
And I'd forgotten about it.
But because we have the available funds, we've always been the ones, because we have the expertise and knowledge of a lot of this, we have been the ones who run the station and also maintain the station. And what you saw was we had a flashover inside the cabinet, and it literally burnt a hole through the back of the cabinet. Right now, we have the capability to run some of the pumps, not all of them though. So we are diligently working on a design, because we're hoping to have this thing, you know, like this last rain. We were down there the day before, crank it, pump it all the way down. And as soon as water starts coming over that wall, start pumping again. Because we are at a decreased capacity current pumping capability down there. So, but our hope is to have all that back up before, we're not going to get the spring, we're not going to make it. But believe it or not, our rainy season is not the spring. Our rainy season for here is November. So our hope is to have that thing up and running by November. Now, what are we doing? We're not putting it where it is. We're moving it. We're putting it up on high ground, and we'll have pipes, and we'll run the electrical from the high end over to it. Okay?
Another thing, who's doing all the drainage work down there at the new junior high in Avalon and Ross?
That's the school.
Chris contractors work.
Okay,
That's
that's the school?
That's the school.
That's going down by the park?
Yeah, that's the school because of the new junior high. That is the school doing that. That's the team.
Yeah. Okay,
That is the school.
I think I've done all that.
Sorry for the-
Saved your plant from not going to big work.
Yeah.
Those are new and don't know that pumping plant that Working Board designed all
I was wondering where the Ward Memphis Memorial.
that. It's not Memorial yet.
Oh, yeah.
Not Memorial yet. The only thing we save from that building is the plaque.
Corps of Engineers couldn't do it for it. Okay, anything else? Mrs. Brown?
Make a
I'm
motion.
designating you.
adjourned.
to be our adjourning person.
Really?
Make a motion.
I move that the meeting.
Have a second of this portion.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.